welcome back to the Fermented World channel. We are on the other side of the kitchen today, and that dappled light is really annoying me, but there's not a lot I can do about it. We should be thankful that the sun is shining because it's bloody freezing out there. Today we are brewing a beer, which is why we're over this side. This is my own recipe that I kind of put together using a coin and two of the kits that I've previously done. So it's going to be like maybe a hybrid between a double IPA and a New England IPA, because it's got a bit of both of the ingredients for it in. It's got a bit of the mixture of the hops in as well. So what it should turn out as is a quite high ABV New England style, but it might not, because this is just an experiment to see whether my recipe works. We've got 5 different types of hops. We've got citra, culumbus, cashmere, strata and sabro. Each of these individual ingredients was selected from 2 things, and each time I flipped a coin. If it was heads, I chose the ingredient from this one. If it was tails, I chose the ingredient from that one. And it worked the same until one recipe didn't have anything left, and then I just used whatever was left on the other recipe. So this is going to be called Coin Flip because of the flipping of the coin, and we'll see how it goes. I will be writing down the ingredients and you'll be able to see the method as to what it is that I'm doing in the video. But just so you know, if you want to get ahead of the game, we've got 3 kilograms of extra pale malt. We've got 525 grams of wheat malt. We've got 150 grams of naked oats. We've got 175 grams of torrified oats. And we've got 350 chit malt. Now I do have a little bit of dextrose at the side if we need it at the end. Some people say don't add it in the end, you should put it in the boil. Yes, you probably should, but you don't know what you've got until you've tried it. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to fill this up with some strike water. We're going to also fill up the sparge water there. And we're going to get this brew on. Right, so we're going to get some strike water. And for my setup that I use, I have 11 litres of strike water, 4.5 litres of the sparge water. And that, after the boil, that gives me around about the amount that I want, which is 11.5 to 12 litres. Either and or. It doesn't really matter. It all depends on what the final gravity is. If the final gravity is around where I want it to be, which I haven't got an idea of where I want it to be yet, it's all going to be dependent on what it's at and what I calculate it to be able to finish at roughly, using the other recipes that I've borrowed from to sort of give me an idea of what it could finish at. But before we do start adding water, we need to get our chemicals right. So we are going to be adding 1 Camden tablet per gallon, and we're doing, say 2.5 gallons, I'd say. So we need, I always put 3 in. I think 3 is a safe amount, just to make sure that you've got it sorted. So we'll crush that down into a powder. I use a pestle and mortar. If you haven't got a pestle and mortar, just use a plate or a bowl and the back of a spoon. Should work perfectly fine. Nice and gently. You don't want to plough it into it and then not be able to get the substance out of it. And we're going to be using some calcium sulfate, which is also known as gypsum powder. Gypsum, yeah, I think that's right. And we're going to be needing 3 grams of this, which is quite a reasonable amount. This is what I was told to use by a brewer for a local brewery when I was picking his brain. He says it just allows the water levels to be a bit more precise with acidity to alkaline, which he knows what he's on about. I'm just an enthusiast. I was well happy to talk to him. Really nice chap called want to say Chris from Shiny Brewery. If you watch this by some random chance, then please do correct me if it's not Chris. But really nice chap. All of them at Shiny Brewery are really, really good, and they make some banging beers. So now we're going to put some water in here. Okay, so I've decided not to put the extra litre in. I'm only doing 10 litres because that is a hell of a lot of grain. And when we add that, the water levels are going to rise. And possibly add extra to the sparge to compensate for that. So we'll probably do a 5.5 sparge. Right, so we're going to make sure that those chemicals are mixed in, which is why I add them first, then add the water now. I used to add them once I'd already put the water in, and they just took forever to flip and mingle in. Sometimes not even fully dissolved before the water even started boiling. So let's get this water on for the strike water. We'll also measure out some for the sparge water. So here we go. Strike water to 70 degrees. The reason for this is once you add your grain, it will go down to about 65. That's where we want it. We want it at 65 degrees for 1 hour. So infusion for 1 hour, no in-betweens or anything like that, just 1 hour. 60 minutes to the end of the boil, we're going to add hop 1, which is going to be our bittering hops. Then 10 minutes towards the end of the boil, we're going to be adding another load of hops, which is the same hops, which is culumbus. This is going to be a culumbus based bitterness. Then we're going to reduce the heat to 80 degrees and add the hop 3, which is the citra and the cashmere, and that's going to be in a hop stand for 20 minutes. We're going to then reduce the temperature to 20 degrees, pitch the yeast, check back in 7 days. After 7 days, we'll check it, see if it's good. If it's good, we're going to be adding the dry hops, and we're going to be leaving the dry hops in for 4 days. The dry hops will be the strata and sabro. Yeah. Approximate cost of this kit that I put together myself, £27.30, including the dextrose, which I don't think I'm going to need. I think I'm going to be good, but I bought it anyway. So, to be honest, it just shows how good value the Brew Day supply kits are, because that's pretty much close to what one of the brewery collaborations which they did with certain breweries like Shiny and Verdant and all the other ones. And so it just shows how good value the Brew Day supply kits are, because that's about the price of one of the top-notch brewery ones where they've collabed with a certain brewery. I still want that bit out, it's bothering me. Anyway, so we're going to let this heat up to 70 degrees. We'll put our bag in. We will then add the grain and get the mash going. Okay, so my mash water is at 72, and I've just remembered I haven't sterilised something, so they're going to quickly get dumped in there. And yes, now we're going to add the bag to this, which is here. We'll remove that bag, and this is just going to sit in the bottom of this. Again, it will be cooling it down, but that's life. That's why we've got it at the temperature it is. It's a little bit higher than it should be, to be honest, but I can't really do a great deal about that. It's a couple of degrees, it's not going to bother it. So what we're going to then do is we're going to clamp it off. I learnt this tip off another home brewer. Can't remember his name. I will find out though. He does a brew in a bag tutorial, which is how I got the idea of moving from the liquid malt extract kits to the all grain, because I looked at what he did and I was like, bloody hell, I could do that. Do you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't seem as hard as you actually think it might be. Basically, all you're doing is creating a giant tea bag for the grain. Imagine you're making a big pot of tea that takes an hour to brew. And then you've got your worts, which is as simple as it is. It is just a giant flipping tea bag. And if you think of it like that, if you can make a cup of tea in your kitchen, you can brew a beer in your kitchen as well. Temperature control is something that you will need. So if you don't have your heating on a great deal, you will need a heat mat to pop it on to make sure that it's regulated and at a constant temperature. For me, I don't really have that trouble, because if you can possibly see over in that corner, I've got 6 things brewing. So I need my kitchen a certain temperature anyway. So I have my heating to be around 20 degrees standard all the time. Even in the summer, because, you know, if it does go cold at one night, you're going to need that heat. But it very rarely comes on in the summer. So we're going to try and level this bag out so that the bottom of the bag isn't loose and baggy, so that it just fits, and then reclamp it and then maneuver it around again so that it's not baggy, but you've got a reasonably good open space there, and then clamp it off again and then do the same. I do apologise if this is not your first video, but I do have to say certain things again, because, oh, that balls that up. I do have to say certain things again, because some people are new and they might not know certain bits and bobs about it. So, right, we've sorted our bag out to the best of my ability, sort of, probably do a bit better. Because what you want to try and create is an open space so that you can mix well. If you don't have that open space to be able to mix it well, you're going to end up with like clumps and stuff like that, which you don't really want. It's not ideal. So there we go. That's our bag in place and sorted. Now we're going to add the grain and we're going to slowly mix it in. I'm going to speed this bit up because it takes a little bit of time, but we're going to be constantly mixing as we're adding the grain. That's just to stop certain bits of it getting all clumped up, because there is bits that are powder. This powder here is what we're going to convert from the starches, or is it the carbohydrate? It's one or the other, and it converts it into the sugars, which we're then going to use to brew with, isn't it? Right, so let's speed it up. Yes, and that took quite a long time, and it was a lot of effort, because that is an extremely thick porridge. But we got it all in, and I'm really glad that I didn't have that extra water. I'm not sure whether that's going to make any difference as to how much it extracts, but I'm sure we'll find out. Now, ideally, I want between, I'm going to be greedy, I want sit between 7 and 9%. That's what I want as standard. And if it's higher than that on the extract, and where I think it's going to be when we guesstimate the final gravity when we start, I will just add a little bit of water to try and get it closer to that amount that I want. But I think a 9% New England IPA, it's a bit high, which is why I said it's going to be more of a hybrid between, whether you can even hybrid beers like that, I don't know, but I'm trying it. Because the two things that I did take the ingredients from and then obviously flip them on a coin as to which one I used was actually a New England IPA and a double IPA. which stands to reason why it's going to be a hybrid between the both, because we're using a mixture of ingredients from each sort of thing. Right, so that's us mixed in. Now it's going to have an hour to mash, which is the process of the starches turning to sugar. And we're going to take these little clamps off. They can go back in the sterilising water, because we don't need them now. And we're going to pop our lid on. In fact, no, we're not. We're going to take a temperature reading, because this will determine whether we need to put a bit of heat on it. We're looking for 65 degrees, or as near as damn it. 61. Okay, looking at 62 here. So I'm going to blast it with a bit of heat, just for a short period of time. So again, lesson learnt. A lot more grain in there, so probably should have done it like 75 degrees maybe. But yeah, I'm going to give this a little blast of heat, and just to bring it up to the temperature I want it at, so they can sit there comfortably. And then we're going to leave it for an hour. So this has got another 11 minutes. So we're going to get the sparge water heated up to 76 degrees. We're going to get this over there, and we're going to take this bag out, and we're going to let the wort drain, which just reminds me, I need this and I haven't cleaned it. Or was it cleaned but just not sterilised? Well, we're going to have to clean and sterilise it regardless, because any bacteria left on that could cause us a problem. So yeah, we're going to do that, and we'll be back. But just remember to heat your sparge water before, otherwise your mash will just be sat longer than it needs to be. I recommend you start heating it up about 15 minutes beforehand. Get it to the temperature you need, and then you can always just top it back up just before you use it with a bit more heat if you need to. So I'm going to go clean that, because we do need that before I can do this bit. And I'm going to have a cup of coffee as well, because that's how we roll. And once the boil's on, I'm going to open a freaking beer. I'll be back. Right, so we then transfer the big heavy pan of cereal, oats, porridge, over to the sink. You don't really need to do it at the sink. I just seem to always do it over here. I suppose it's because there's a potential for it to drip all over the place, and I can't be arsed with it. So, lid off. Hopefully it's extracted what it needs to extract. If not, we're screwed, and we'll soon find out whether we have or not. So we're going to hoy this bag out of here. It's going to be heavy because there was a lot of grain in it, and we're just going to let that seep through. Any kind of grill that you've got like this will be really helpful to place it on. Careful, because it is hot. Hasn't cooled down much from the 65 degrees we had it at. And what we're going to want to do, you don't want to try and twist it a little bit, put a bit of tension on it, and then wrap a tie around it as tight as you can, but not too tight that you can't get it undone, because we do need to again undo this after. And just try and make sure that it's not overflowing anywhere where it's going to drip outside of your container or your pan, whatever you want to call it. And I think we're good for now. We'll wait for the sparge water. Once the sparge water is sorted, we're going to tip the sparge water onto this. It's going to seep through, and it's going to collect any leftover sugars that we didn't get from just the mash. Okay, so now we've got our sparge water. It's in here. I'm just heating up another litre, because the pan that I had wouldn't have been able to fit it in. We're going to do another litre. Sorry about the noise, the dog's scratching at his biscuits. He always comes in when I'm doing something. I'm going to add another litre to it because I had 1 less litre in the mash, which we're going to need for the overall pre-boil. So now what we're going to do is, I'm going to show you this in real time, but then I'm going to speed it up. We're just going to very, very slowly trickle water through the bag and all around the bag, nice and gently. And what that's going to do is it's going to rinse through any sugars that are left. Just going to double check that we're not hanging over anywhere where we're going to lose any of it. And this is called sparging. Basically, we're just rinsing the grain to make sure we've got all of that lovely sugars out, which is going to create the body of our beer. And next step will be adding some hops when it's boiled. So I'm going to speed this up because it's boring and it takes forever, as you can see. It's a very delicate process. Now, I brew my beer using the brew and bag method. Now, it's not very sophisticated at all. I'm going to put that down because it's heavy. It's not very sophisticated at all. You can get some machines that actually, it does everything for you. It regulates your heat. It separates your grain through something called a false bottom, I believe. And then you drain your wort out. And then you do a sparge, but like, it's sort of like a mini sprinkler. It looks really, really cool, but you're looking a good, I don't know, for a decent kit, probably, I don't know, I want to say about 700 quid, which I don't have, never gonna have for brewing. So I'm quite happy doing it this way. I mean, I get reasonably good results. I'm certainly not had any that I wouldn't drink. Some of them have even been exceptionally good. Like, you know, the Old Peculiar clone that I did, again from Brew Day Supplies. All these kits are from Brew Day Supplies, so do go check them out. brew-day.co.uk. Really, really good. And did an Old Peculiar clone, and I sat it next to an actual bottle of Old Peculiar, and there was only very, very minimal difference between them. It was that flipping close. Anyway, I'm going to stop yapping about how good they are, and I'm going to get on with sparging this. So yeah, let's get it on. Okay, so that is the sparge, pretty much done. What we're going to do now is we're just going to apply a little bit of pressure. Actually, before we do that, we're going to try and tighten this again, because it's all about adjusting to what you've got there. And if we can make it a bit tighter, it makes it a bit smaller, which when we apply the pressure, puts more force, which should take more of the sugar out. That's a song I've not listened to for a very long time. System of a Down. Sugar. We're getting a bit, but not a lot. It's probably more effort than it's worth, but there we are. The level we've got looks good. So we did, oh, pardon me. We did need that extra litre. We may lose some of this down to the, well, we're going to lose some of it, obviously, because of the boil. But yeah, hands are very sticky when touching that, so that's a good sign. We're going to spin around. Just like that. Don't look at my hob, it is dirty as you like. But what we're going to do now is we're going to get this up to the boil. And once it's at boiling temperature, we're going to set an alarm for 1 hour and add the first lot of hops. We need 10 grams of culumbus, wherever the culumbus hops is. Here, where's my skizzers? Here, sterilised tubs, important. Even though they're going in the boil, I like to sterilise them just to make sure that we're good. They've been sat in a cupboard for a while, they may not have been used for a long time. All these come vacuum packed. So this is the culumbus. Oh yes, I love hops. 10 grams, that's where we're at. 5, 9, 11 and a half, 9.9, 10.2. Can we get it down to 10? 10.1. Right, I'll leave it at 10.1. That'll do, donkey. That is the first hop addition going in, but we've got to wait for this to get to the set amount of boiling point. Next is 7.5 culumbus, and this is going in 10 minutes towards the end. I'll do 7.6, and that is all we need of the culumbus, to be honest. So I'm going to wrap that up, fold it over, and it's going to go back in the freezer. It's not going to be airtight, so to speak, and that, but I'll think of a way of using it rather quickly, knowing that it needs to be used up. Let me just double check there's no more culumbus in this recipe. No, because the minimum you can buy is 50 grams. So I'll just pop that back in there for now, and I'll figure out something that we're going to use it for another day. So that's my hop additions weighed out. READY. Now we will need another of the cashmere and the citra, but that's not going to be for about an hour's time, so we're not going to open them just yet. We'll leave them nice and fresh, and yeah, we'll be back once this is boiled to add the first hops. Right, so we're just coming up to the boil now. We're at the point where it's going to take off any second now. There we go. We've got that break. A little break over here. That's what we want. It seems to be rising. I'm not happy about it. I don't want to knock it down yet. I'm going to knock it down. Don't overflow. Right. I'm still not convinced it's not going to overflow, but we're at the boiling point now. We could probably bring this a little bit over here to disperse the heat a bit better. Right, so we are boiling. So I'm going to knock that down ever so slightly for now. In fact, I'm going to turn it all the way off, and we're going to add in our first hop addition, and we're going to set an alarm for 1 hour. It needs a 1 hour boil. Where's the 1 hour clock gone? Where's it gone? There's the hour. And then we also need to start one for 50 minutes, which is when we're going to add the next lot of hops. So 50 minutes is go. Now we can crank this back up to the boil, and that will extract all of the lovely flavours and bitterness from the hops. We want to get it at a steady boil so that we're happy with where it's at, and then we can just leave it, you know, just keep checking on it, double checking that it's all right. I'm gonna mix that hops in, make sure it all gets mixed in and evenly dispersed. So hops release something called alpha acids, which is how bitter it makes it. You can get different ones. Obviously there's numerous types of hops, and there's new ones being made all the flipping time. And yeah, some of them have higher alpha acids, some of them have different, and each one has a different characteristic as well. Some you can get piney flavors from, some are like citrusy. Oops. Righty ho, so the hops is in. Crank it back up until we get a boil. Right, there we are. Got that rolling boil, and we'll be back when the clock strikes 50 minutes. Bang in the other hops. Right, so any second now, the alarm's going to go off, and we're going to be adding the hop addition 2, which means there is only 10 minutes left of the boil. In that goes. When the next alarm goes off, that is our 1 hour's boil and our boil hop additions in. Just give it a good old mix and then let it carry on doing its thing. Back in 10 minutes. Okay, so the boil has now finished. We switch that off. Looks like we've got possibly the right amount. Doesn't seem to be under. Normally I go by these second nodules that hold these things on. Normally if it's just below there, that gives us around about what we want. So what we're going to do now is we're going to switch it round. We're going to place this in here, which is my immersion cooler. Let's crack on, because what we need to do now is, according to my recipe, we need to move this over to here. Move this over to here. It's rather steamy in here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to get this immersion cooler and attach it to this tap. Now it's not going to take long to cool this down to 80 degrees, so we've got to be on it like a carp on it. It's going to splutter and spit out a bit. So we've got cold water coming through the tap into the coil, cools the wort down, comes out of this little thing here, goes into the sink. Bada bom, bada bing. You just got to make sure that it's sat right. So we're going to keep an eye on this to make sure that it is going to be the correct temperature. It does drop pretty quick, so we need to double check. What we're looking for is about 80. And as soon as we reach 80, we're going to turn this off. So we're at 81, going down to, there you go, just past 80. Bada bom, bada bing. Now what we're going to do is pour this out, and we're going to find somewhere clean to pop it. So that would be clean. So we'll use that for now. And then what we're going to do is quickly measure out our hops that's going in it. So if you want to recreate the same product, what you want to be able to do is look at your thing and know how much you put in, which is why it's important that we weigh things out to the nearest parameter. You know, like 0.1 over, don't worry about it. It's not going to make that much of a difference. So we need 40 grams of each, cashmere and citra, which are here. So we're going to snip these open. Ooh, you beast. Which one's this? Cashmere. That's so good. 40 grams. Which is a nice amount, you know, it's a hefty amount in there for the... Is that right? Yeah, it is. 40 grams. Which will leave us 10 grams to do something else with. 39.7, 40 on the dot. So that should be about 10 grams left in there to do something else with. We will deal with that in a second though, because we need 40 grams of the citra. Now this is one of the most popular hops that people use. It is in a lot of beers because of its citrus notes, and it is just lovely. Lovely jubbly. Now we've gone over, I've got to take it from the top to make sure that it's citra. 80.1, I can live with that. I'm not going to fanny that. For 0.1, a beer while you brew. And there we have it. That is the hops that's going in to what we call a hop stand. You have reduced the heat, and what you do is you just sprinkle it in. You don't even need to sprinkle it in. I don't even know why I said sprinkle it in. You can just bash it in there, and then you're going to give it a good stir. Then we're going to leave this for 20 minutes while it infuses, and what this is going to give is a nice flavour and aroma. It's not at the boiling point, so it's not really going to be adding anything to that's going to bitter it. But say 10 minutes in, you want to come back and just give it another whirl. So we're going to set one for 10 minutes, and we'll come and give it another stir in 10, halfway through. Right, so my alarm didn't go off, so it's a bit longer than 10 minutes, but we're going to give it a stir. And we're going to wait about 5 minutes. Okay, so we're back quickly. We've done that. That's pretty much all of the steps complete now. What's left to do is to chill this down to pitching temperature, which is going to be about 20 degrees. If you can't get it to exactly 20 degrees, just have it around that temperature if you can. One above it is okay, one below it is okay. If you can only do two above it and there's no other way of you being able to do it, don't worry about it. Just get it as close as possible and leave it. I'm going to cool mine down to 20 because that's what temperature my kitchen is, and it's going to take a while, so we will be back. You can stir it while it does it, but it doesn't really make much of a difference. If you don't have a chiller, I recommend getting one. The reason why we chill it down quick is so no bacteria can get in there and cause a problem. Yes, that is why. So yeah, we're going to leave this. It's probably going to take about 20 minutes, and we'll be back. Yeah, 20 minutes has gone by really, really quickly, and we do now have it at a pitchable temperature. Pardon me. It's quite cold at the moment, and the morning walk for myself and with the dog later on kind of got me a bit shotty. Right, so this is sanitized. The thing at the bottom there is off. What we're going to do now is we're going to filter this through this, and it will drip through into the bucket ready to be fermented for us to pitch the yeast. So let's just start this off. This is going to catch all of the crud that we don't want, which is mainly hops. Just like that, and we'll come back in a sec and we'll do a bit more. I'll just speed this bit up from now on because it's just a bit long. So it's taken absolutely ages to go through, so I opened a beer, which you probably saw. Slowly trickling through. I don't think we're going to make the mark that we wanted, which is 11.5 litres. Or 11 litres. Is this an 11 litre kit? Who knows? I don't think we're going to get there. But we do have this to strain off, so to speak. So what we're going to do is we're going to get this bag. Oh, what do we do with this? Oh, it goes out like that. I'm going to get this bag and we're going to manually strain it. My hands are clean. Ooh, don't want to be losing that wort. Kind of like one of them when you go for a wee in the morning and it just goes forever. Yeah. Blokes, you'll know what I'm on about. I don't know whether ladies have that issue where you just keep going and going and going and it's like, when's it gonna stop? Anyway, back to more pressing matters. So yeah, we have got 11 litres there. I'm going to try and get as much out of this as possible because you always lose about a litre in this size bucket from the yeast because the yeast makes a big deposit on the bottom. And why would I leave this hoppy goodness inside this bag and then throw it? You can compost this stuff. I have done it in the past, but at the moment my compost bin's quite full. I might have a look tomorrow and see if it's gone down at all since I cut the grass last. But if not, it will just go in the compost bin, like garden waste. Be all right. What they don't know won't hurt them. Right, so I'm done there. I've squeezed enough out that my flipping hands hurt. So, quick rinse of the hands, and we are ready to get some air into this, which we are going to have to go over there because I'll be using my drill and this contraption, which is literally a paint mixer. Attach it to a drill, it beats wonderful oxygen into there. So let's move over to there. Okay, so now we're back over the usual side of the room and we are going to be taking a hydrometer reading. We are a little bit shy of the 11.5, which is what I gauged this kit to be able to do, but it's looking good. Like, it looks like what a double IPA should look like. Let's see if I can bring you over without destroying everything. So if that was in your glass, a bit lighter than that, obviously it's darker because it's over in the bucket, but you would be like, yes, that looks good to me. But hopefully it'll have the flavors of a New England IPA. But first of all, what we need to do is we need to take a hydrometer reading before we do anything else, because that is going to be the deciding factor as to whether we dilute this with a bit more water or whether we leave it as it is. Now we know here we had some extraction of sugars because we measured it and it was sticky. Right, starting gravity of, okay, it's high, it's very high, maybe too high, 72. I'll be back, need to do some calculations. Right, so if it goes down to what the double IPA recipe went down to, we're looking at about 7.5%. Now for a New England IPA, that's a little bit high, I reckon. Or is it? what's the definition of a high ABV for a specific type of brew? Oh, I'm glad I finished that sentence before I sneezed. I think I'm getting a cold. I've been out in the bloody cold every morning, so getting walks done and stuff, trying to get rid of this beer belly, but it don't seem to be going nowhere. Right, so there's a potential for it to be either 7.5 or 8.1, depending on what it goes down to. Now, I normally get it a little bit lower than what the recipes that I buy end up being. I don't know why it ferments a little bit more, but I suppose you've got different parameters, its environment, etc, etc. So you see, I think what I should do is just go with it, and then when I brew it again, because the chances are I will, if it's nice enough, you know, that's at 72. So I think we need to make a little note of that somewhere. I haven't got an actual pad close to me, so I'm going to use a new one, just because I really need to make a note. 72, 1.072, coin flip. Now, flipping a coin is a bit of a random way of doing it, but I just couldn't decide which ingredient I wanted from each one. I knew that I was going to mix them together to try and create something different, because I didn't want to just outright copy their recipes, you see. But I wanted to see, like, as an experiment, if you just mash loads of crap together, can you create a good beer? Or is it just going to taste like ass? But I'm sure we'll find out in about a few weeks when we get to taste it. Right, so we're at 72. We're going to leave it at that, and then we can always adjust and mess around with it next time. Let's get some oxygen in there. In fact, no. Before we get some oxygen in there, let's put the yeast in, and then we'll do it all in one foul swoop. Now, that's not actually broke that seal, because the seal's further down. So for this, I chose to use WHC saturated yeast, which is 11 grams of. I've used this yeast before. It was in one of the kits, and I flipped a coin as to which one I was going to use, and it turned out it was going to be this one. So luckily you can buy this direct from Brew Day as well. And yeah, we are now going to get this mixed in. So this is sterilised, of course. We're going to attach to this. Make sure it's locked on. Turn it down to begin with. Make sure we're free of all entanglements, and we're just going to mix the yeast in. And there we are. It makes that part of it extremely simple. These cost literally like £5. You can do it with any drill. It will just save your arms so much effort, which is magic. So all there is left to do is find our lid, attach the little cap thing that goes in there, which is at the bottom of that. There we go. Attach that into there. It sits nice and snug. Attach our airlock into the groove, not all the way in, like that. Just enough. Create a seal. Make sure it's nice and snug. Yep. And then we're going to close this sucker up. And we're going to be back in 7 days. Was it 7 days or was it 4 days? I don't know. Because I also took the amount of time that it was going to be, and I think I halved it. Check gravity on day 7. If good, proceed and add hops 4 for 4 days. Yeah, so we're going to do 7-day brew. We'll check it. If it's below 20, which is what I used to add hops at, a lot of them say lower than that. They normally go for the target ABV, which I might do. I'm going to say that the target's around the 13 mark. 1.0, sorry, yeah, 1.013. And yeah, if it's good, we shall add the dry hops. So following on from the video for this was started on the 1st. It's now the 9th. It's had 2 days longer than it was supposed to. This is the Coin Flip IPA, which was supposed to be a high ABV New England IPA, because it was kind of a mixture of 2 different recipes, and I flipped a coin to decide which part of it I was going to be using. So anywho, what I do need is something clean to rest this on. That can go down there for now. We're going to open this up, and we're going to be putting in a total of 100 grams of dry hops. It is 50 grams of strata and 50 grams of sabro. So make sure there's no little dusty bits there. We're going to open this up. Now, when this started fermenting, it went absolutely batshit crazy. The liquid level's here, and it rose all the way up to here. Now that's some crazy activation. Right. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a hydrometer reading just to make sure that it's at a, and the dog comes in to have a drink every sodding time. Start a video, he's like, you know what, I'm thirsty. So sorry about that noise. So we're going to be checking the gravity, not the ABV. You have to check the gravity, because otherwise, if it's still at quite a high gravity, you're not really supposed to put your hops in, because what it could potentially do is ferment the hops if it's still going like the clappers. So we're at 14, which is good for me. What did I expect it to be? 13. So we're pretty much there, which is absolutely fan-dabby-dozy. I'm gonna have a little taste, because I do like to have a taste and see where we're at in the process. Looks nice and cloudy, which is what we want for the style. Yeah, nice. It's not overly anything, it's quite mellow. Yeah, it's actually quite nice. Rather. And again, it has got that nice cloudiness which you expect from a New England IPA. I think that's something to do with the oats that go into it, the torrified oats, or the flaked oats, or something like that. So, when I dry hop, I use a hop bag, which is this little mesh bag. And what I'm going to do is, I'm going to pop this into my little thing here, little mug, and I need some scissors. And then what we do is we snip the top of the hot packet with a little crush, because it's vacuum packed. It's all tightly stuck together. Oh, that one smells lovely. Sabro. Using all of it, 50 grams. All of the ingredients were sourced from Brew Day Supplies, which is brewday-. cashmere.co.uk. You can get absolutely everything you need. Oh yeah, strata. And we're going to get a quick picture of this. And then we get the bag. We just tie the bag loosely, because you can reuse the bags. The bag's been sterilised, of course. Would not be putting it in contact with this beer if it wasn't. And then we just lay that in there. And that'll have about 4 days contact. Pop your lid back on and job's a fish. And we'll be back once it's time to take the hops out and bottle it. And we'll do it all in one video. See you soon. So it's 10:50 at night, so I'm having to be a little bit quiet, so sorry if you can't hear me very well. But we're going to be checking on the Coin Flip beer that I brewed. Yeah, basically. We're going to be got everything ready to bottle it, sterilised, washed, ready. The hops has been in for longer than expected. It brewed for longer than expected. I just haven't got around to it. Christmas time's busy. We're going to take this bag of hops out, which I'm going to need something to place the hop bag on, which this will do for now. And then we're going to get the bottles and we're going to bottle. It's definitely ready. There is no doubt about it. Oh, it smells juicy. Oh. Holy moly. That smells so freaking good. We're definitely getting rid of that, as it has had its contact time and it was already past the point where we wanted it to. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the hop bag out. I'm going to strain it off by squeezing it as much of the liquid out as I can, and then we're going to remove it and we're going to get it bottled. I'm just going to quickly put my hands in some sanitizing liquid, even though I have washed them. Probably shouldn't put your hands in directly in the sanitizing solution, being as it's slightly corrosive, but we don't want to add any nasties to the beer. So this is what we're going to do. I'm not actually going to record the bottling, but I'm going to show you how I do. Some people, I do say this every time, but some people will say don't do this. Some people just remove it. But I found that there's probably about there's probably about 500 ml of beer in there. So I want it. And to be honest, it's going to have a lot of the flavour locked in there as well. So why wouldn't you want it? There we go. So we're about at the 11 litre mark. I'm just going to quickly rinse my hands again, get a chair, and we're going to bottle this. But before we do, we're going to take a hydrometer reading to see if it fermented any further. Now, off the top of my head, I do not remember what this was. I think it was 13. I think that's what it fermented down to. So I'm going to take a hydrometer reading from about midway down. Just so we can pick up some of that juiciness that we've just put back in. It's nice and cloudy, which is what it's supposed to be with the style that it is. I tried a crossover between a New England IPA and a double IPA, but I'm not quite sure we got a double IPA ABV. We are sat more at more of a yeah, it's still on the 14 mark, so yeah, it hasn't fermented anymore, so it's definitely finished. So let's have a quick taste. Another good bit about brewing your own beer, you get to taste it. I mean, it looks nice and cloudy. Hopefully it will stay hazy like that, as per the style. And let's see what we're working with. Smells good, smells juicy. Pleasant, juicy. Would definitely benefit from carbonation. pretty darn nice. Quite impressed with that. Well done. Clap, clap me. Although I did borrow 2 other breweries kind of things, flipped a coin and chose different things from different sides. So yeah, like I say, I'm not going to video the bottling because it's getting late and I'm tired. I just want to get it done as quickly as possible. So that's the end of the video. It's a really nice beer. I hope you have fun trying it. Take it easy. I'll see you all soon.